Good morning. How are we today?
Not too bad. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to you live. I'm Richard Jack, and you are,
Melissa Blue.
and we represent two coaches and one truth. And it's such an honor and privilege to be able to have and spend time with my dear friend Melissa, who gotten to know and appreciate for her coaching abilities. So, Melissa, I want to start with you right off the top. We're both East Coast people, so we want to get right to it. No delays. And I was wondering over the weekend, I've known you for quite some time, but I don't think I've ever asked you really, how did you get involved with coaching?
That's a very interesting question. I come from a world of accounting. I have been a CFO and owned multiple CPA firms and accounting firms. And I've always had an executive coach. I've always had a business coach, a leadership coach, and a mind power coach. And I'm one that when I go into something, I want to learn both sides of something. Right before COVID happened, I decided, all right, let's do it. Let's go into this coaching academy. Let's see what it's about, just so I can be better manager and owner for my employees. And then COVID happened. So I learned how to be a coach, and I was sitting at the Thanksgiving dinner table with my laptop, and my son looked at me and said, "Mom, is there ever going to be a day where you don't work?"
Wow.
I paused and said, "Yes, there will be a day." And then I realized, and I thought about it more over the weekend, that I can't even take a vacation without not working. So I decided a month later that at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was working on mobile sports betting. So I was working on some sports betting in the back and the technology. And I was like, I am so done with this. So I stopped working on that and I wrote my resignation letter. And he sent my resignation letter at 4 in the morning and said, "You have 3 weeks before I'm gone." My phone blew up at 8 a.m. "What do you mean you're quitting? I can't believe." I'm like, "I'm leaving the industry." I'm like, "I'm done. I think I could be more effective by going into organizations and help them communicate." The one thing I could tell you, being an accountant and being a CFO, especially within the gaming world, and a lot of that gaming world is a man's world, is how do you increase your communication so people actually listen? People don't listen anymore. They listen to the first words, they listen to the last words, which then in turn affects how your quality of work is, how your culture is in organizations. So I saw an opportunity to be able to go into companies and do this. So I went through the coaching academy. I learned how to do this. Never thought I was going to be a coach. Then I got a phone call from one of my friends that was in the academy and said, "Hey, I'm launching an executive leadership program in our behavioral company. You have the executive leadership background. You're a licensed coach. What do you think about coming in and helping me build this? Because CFOs will talk to you. They may not talk to me." And I'm like, all right. I was like, I've never really coached, right? Like, you sure you want to hire me? So I laughed and she was like, "I'm positive." I was like, all right, like I'll interview. So I interviewed the COO and I had an offer the next day. And then I started coaching. And so that's what made me realize, all right, let's do it. I'm going to have a career as a coach and I no longer am a CFO. So I went all for nothing. I went from making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to making $0 a year. So I was like, what do I have to lose at this point? So that's how I got into coaching because my son asked me at a Thanksgiving dinner table, "Mom, are you ever going to be able to not work?"
Wow, that's a lot of courage that you've taken on. And so, on your journey into coaching, what has been your experience in terms of how do people understand coaching from your experience? I mean, you're coming from a C-suite position where you're used to being around leaders that are focused. In many cases, they're making high demands, and then you go to a world to entrepreneurship and and coaching people. What has that transition been like for you?
The transition was difficult at first. I think the most difficult part was I felt like an imposter. So I didn't feel that I was authentic because I was new to coaching, not realizing and stepping back and realizing that I've been a coach for 27 years. I've owned multiple companies to where entrepreneurs are coaches. You're not only mentoring your people, you're coaching your people. But mentoring is more reaching a goal and teaching them how to get to that goal. Coaching is more asking questions to get somebody out of their box. And then when you see that somebody's flustered, that's when you push some more because that's where the real growth happens. Because otherwise, we're inside our comfort zone. I could have stayed in my comfort zone. I was really good at accounting. I still am really good at accounting. But was that gonna make me happy? No. So I chose screw it. All in. If this doesn't work, what's the worst that can happen? I can go back to accounting. I have degrees, right? My friends will let me live on their couch. Who cares? I had nothing to lose except for the years I had with my son and being able to take off at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to go to a school play or pick him up or go to all of his activities. And that was more important to me. I mean, I was literally at the point where it was like, if this all fails, I could just go work at McDonald's. Like, I have no pride.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It sounds like when I listen to your story, your journey, you did it more for to be able to spend more time with your son, if I'm hearing you correctly, and to you, even though you had the high energy, high pack career as a CFO, you valued spending time with your child over money and over other opportunities. Am I hearing you correctly?
You are hearing me correctly.
Yeah,
My
that's
son
amazing.
was God's gift.
That's noble. That's very, very that's touching. That warms my heart to think that a parent is willing to sacrifice her career for her son. And as I'm sure he does, but does he know how lucky he is to have that a parent that's willing to make that commitment and take that risk?
He does. And he tells me all the time, Mom, I'm really glad that you stopped working all the time and that you can have fun with me. I mean, we do activities together. He knows that I'm the one that's going to show up. I'm the one that's going to always be beside him. Being a single mom has been the most joyful part of my life. I grew up since the age of 14 or 15, been told that I can't have children. So I grew up my entire life thinking I'll never have a child. Also, grew up not wanting children. And then I got really, really sick. And the doctors told me, all right, let's do it. Let's get everything out. And they told me I was pregnant.
Hmm.
And I had a panic attack, scared the shit out of me. And then after that, I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's see how we can do this healthily. And I never knew the love that you can have for somebody else when it's your own child. I used to hear all the time, like being at, like, you don't know the difference. Like, you can't feel it. You don't know. You don't understand. And I thought they were always full of it. Well, apparently they're not full of it. So I had him and then I became a single mom and I was like, I just want to spend time with him because you only get these years one time. And once he's grown up, then I could do whatever I want to. But what better pleasure is doing something of helping others and teaching my son that we have to give to others, not only to ourselves, his entire life.
I love that. And when you think about your journey as a coach, what are some of the early on challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them?
Imposter syndrome, hands down. I felt like, why would you listen to me when I'm not really a practice coach at this point? And the only way to overcome that is repetition and confidence and being sure that no matter what you say, the other person is not judging you. They're
Hmm.
there for help. They're there to listen. They're there to make themselves better. So I flipped it in my brain to let's help each other. We're here to make each other better through this journey because no matter what happens in coaching, the people that I talk to and I help, they're helping me be a better individual as well, not just me helping them accomplish their goals and be a better individual leader, communicator through their avenues of whatever they're trying to do in their life.
That's powerful. And as I listen to you talk about your journey and what your passion is, your son is obviously a passion, but then you have a passion to help people. How does your definition or how has your definition of what coaching has evolved since you started coaching?
I would say it's evolved into help individuals be better versions of themselves. They come to me because they already know that there's a better version of themselves out there. That whatever it is that's holding them back in that little comfort zone of, I'm good. I don't want to go ahead and test the waters. That they hired me to help them test those waters. So why not be the one to lean in with them? This past year has been incredible for me for leaning in, also of being uncomfortable. Scared of heights? We can get over scared of heights. I jumped out of a plane. There's things that our body will tell us and our mind will tell us to protect us. Yet, is it true protection or is it hesitation of what's on that other side?
Yeah, yeah. And when you think about the type of people you're looking to attract as a coach, what kind of stands out in your mind?
Individuals that truly want to capitalize on elevating to a level that they've only imagined in their mind. And most of those individuals are within executive leadership, are entrepreneurs, because those are the ones that are going for it. They're going for it in certain areas of their life, but yet they still have things that hold them back. Every single person has a leadership blind spot. Every single person has their strengths. Even as a superhero, if you think about the movies, they still have things that hold them back of why they create certain movies of superheroes working together. So why not maybe one of those superheroes that helps you be that superhero that you want to be in your life, not only for your family, but for your business and for your bottom line.
That's powerful. How do you see yourself? I've been coaching for about, well, I got certified in 2017 through high performance coaching, and my journey has not looked anywhere near yours. And so when I think about the coaching journey, the coaching experience, and what we do as coaches, we also adopt certain styles. How would you explain your coaching style?
My coaching style is very direct as I am from Jersey and I tell you how it is and I call you out how it is. But I'm really glad that you mentioned your coaching journey because I'd love to hear it, even though, we have been friends for quite a few years now. What made you get into coaching? What is your journey?
I've had a passion for helping people ever since I was a young boy. When I retired out of the military, I became a school counselor, and I realized that the people I were working with, the youth that I were working with, they were coming from backgrounds and situations that were very troublesome. And I've always been the kind of person that I've always wondered, what does it take to get to the next level in life? Whether you're an athlete or you're in the military, you have an occupation, what's that next level? How do you get there? And I remember that my first personal development seminar I went to, the speaker was on stage and he said, "Hey, what are three words that you would use to define you?" So I gave him my three words. He paused, and it was for the whole audience, but we were sitting there and he said, "Okay, give me three more words that you would want to define you. How do you want to be? What do you want to see yourself as? How do you want to engage people?" And as I began to write those three words down, the three words that I wrote down originally were not the three words that I came up with to define myself now. And at that point in time, I realized that I've always been involved with leadership training. I've always had a go get it attitude. But how many people that I've met that have been stuck in a frame of mind or reference and haven't been able to grow beyond that? And the feeling of overwhelm and freedom I felt when someone brought that out of me to help me understand how I'm living in misalignment was impactful and powerful. And then I said, if I could teach the same skill sets to already established curriculum with my youth, how much more impactful would that be? And so that began my coaching journey. And I was fortunate to be in the military, in the Air Force for 20 years and have a chance to grow in that role because from the time you walk in the door, there's a there's a requirement for you to mentor the next guy, no matter what your rank is, because they're your replacement. And so I was fortunate to walk into a situation, a system as a young man that really taught you the power of mentoring the guy behind you and getting mentored from the guy above you. So my whole journey in the military has been about being mentored and coached and leveling up at every single step. And then when I became a civilian, I learned really quick that that's not always the case in the civilian sector. And it creates an opportunity for people to become complacent and stuck. And that's kind of how I got involved with the whole coaching journey. I was like, well, I've already been trained and conditioned and mentored to level up. How many more people out there feeling like me? And I saw it with the children. And how many more? And I was a school counselor, so let me add that in there. So even being a school counselor, I already had the foundation of all these different skill sets and learnings that I wanted to share with the world. And so I began my coaching journey, and it's been fun. It's been interesting. especially when you have to press people because people are not used to being pressed to extend themselves and to operate, which is out of a different frame of mind. And to your point, you were saying that, your coaching point is direct. Well, sometimes you want to give tough love and you want to stretch your client, right?
I'm curious.
Uh,
What were your original 3 words versus what are your words now?
Determined. I was very determined. So my words were determined, growth minded, and task oriented. And because of what I did in the military, and the culture I grew up in, we were always taught mission first. So that was very important to me is making sure that I delivered at a high level professionalism. And sometimes that can become across rigid and very strict and stoic in your approach. And so as I was sitting there and I'm saying, I want to be able to relax more. My 3 words was relax, still ambitious, but with more fun and less stress. And so at that particular point in time, I had to make a decision to focus on becoming those 3 words. And it's been a journey because the reality of it is for me is that no one's teaching you how to evolve. And I think coaching gives you the opportunity to answer those questions in a systematized approach, right? When I coach people, I'm not coaching you for where you're at. I'm coaching you what you're becoming. And I'm trying to pour into you and ask questions to elicit, your response to help you see yourself differently in your current situation and get out of the woe is me mentality or the challenges of why I'm feeling this way. Well, let's take action and do something about it. And sometimes for people, that's kind of a difficult for them to do because they're not used to somebody challenging them at that level. And I don't care if you're sweet, C suite, F suite, D suite, E suite, P suite, or D suite. I think the concepts is all the same for me, right? Whether you're coaching athletes or you're coaching a regular guy on the street or a C-suite executive, there are some things that are very germane to humanity that has to push us to the next level. And it's been a great journey.
Wow, that's incredible.
Thank
I don't
you.
think I ever knew about that. But you really wanna say you're relaxed?
I mean, relax to me is I enjoy. I have a passion for being purposeful. There are a lot of people out there. I'll give you an example. When you made the comment that pasta syndrome, when I look at my career, I've done many things. I had one of the most exciting jobs in the military as an air traffic controller. Just that alone, with the military orientation, with the education, all of these things, it's kept me motivated and going. So I'm always looking for that next goal. But when that question was raised, I realized, do I have to push it hard anymore? I'm retired. Do I have to do these things at a high level? When I built my youth program, Gentlemen by Choice, I wasn't building it to be the best. I was building it with a purpose in mind. So to me, I'm relaxed when I'm doing something I love, right? Maybe the look on my face says he's focused, but the process to me is relaxing because I know at the end of the day, I'm going to get to the end of the day. I'm going to produce what I believe is the best thing for whoever I'm working with, right? And I see that time and time again. I'm going to be very intentional, but where people feel being intentional is pressure, I feel it very relaxing, if that makes sense to you. Like that's my sweet spot. Like I don't want to waste time with people. So I'm like, hey, look, let me get to the point. Let me understand what you're trying to do. And let me help you get there because the job to me as a coach is to help you close that gap to get from where you're at to where you want to go much faster, much quicker. Because I don't want to take your money and I don't want to waste your time. I want to get you to where you want to go and earn your trust and my money, right? I mean, that's why I'm doing this. I love people and I want to help people, but I've realized in my journey, some people you can't help. Some people like the idea of winning, but they're not trying to win. They're just trying to talk about the concept of win, right? And I throw that question back to you on your journey. What have you seen out of people that are stuck in terms of effort, energy, and expertise?
I have to agree with you on some aspects of this is most people don't wanna put the action in. They wanna say they want certain things, and they're willing to go for it, yet they only wanna do it within their own box. So it's when you challenge them to go outside that box, it's, "No, no, 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 hold on. I'm not gonna really do it." So one of the things I've seen is the ones that really wanna go for it and are 100% into coaching, it doesn't matter what we say, that box does not exist. But those that want to possibly keep those brakes on, they're going to keep referring back to the box because they're so scared of that unknown and what I call the TFM. Who knows what's in that TFM? I didn't know what that TFM was when I left my career and went into a coaching career,
What is
but yet
TF?
too fucking much.
Yes, yeah,
I'm just saying
yeah,
that
yeah.
world, like, right? That thought of this is way too much for me to handle, for me to even think of, and it's too scary for me to cross that line. So I'm just gonna go ahead and stay right here. I'm gonna stay right here. Go ahead. Right? It's comfortable. I'm making good money. I have a good lifestyle, but yet you have so many more goals that you want to achieve. So where is it that you're holding yourself back now? And then those with children, where is it that you're showing your child that they shouldn't go for it? Yet we're telling our kids, go to school, go for it, try new sports, try this, meet new people. Yet the example that we're setting is not that example. So where is it that we just need to lead by example sometimes and just take that action and go for it?
That's powerful. That's powerful. And when you think about your journey and what you're seeing, what are some of the reasons why people are talking about their stuff?
I think it's fear. I think the majority of the reasons it's fear of the unknown on the other side. It's so scary when you don't know. But when you know something, you're more willing to go into it. And being a neuroplastician and understanding what your neural pathways do for you and how your works, our brain is designed to stop us. Just like when you go and ride a bike as a little kid and you're trying to ride a bike. And it's like, I get on the bike, I'm scared. I remember being super scared and I'm going to fall and I don't want to do this. Let me not try to do this. Yet I knew that I had to keep going because my dad pushed me to. So whether I wanted to or not, my dad was going to push my ass on that bike. Same concept. Where is it that a coach and a good coach you have behind you is pushing you on that bike and saying, okay, I'm now going to let go. And look, you just rode around the cul-de-sac.
What I love how you phrase that. So that leads me to my next question. What is a good coach in your definition?
A good coach is one that not only inquires about what's underneath the goal that you're trying to set and find the reason for it, they push you past your goal to a new level that you couldn't have imagined
Mm,
because you're thinking smaller than you actually need to,
That
because this whole thing is a bigger situation than you are. And a good coach asks more questions and listens more than providing advice.
that's funny you say that because one of the things that often bothers me about coaching or listening to people talk about coaching. Let me back into this a different way. What are some of the misperceptions that you hear about coaching that hurt your ears?
What makes them an expert? What makes you better than I am to know how I need to do my job? You are in my shoes, so you don't understand. Do we really need to be in somebody else's shoes to understand?
Do we?
Think about that.
Do we?
No,
Why do you say that?
because if we were always in somebody else's shoes, why would we be able to help someone else get past their own limitations and what they believe their higher calling is or goal is? And we can make them past that and think bigger, think greater. So if you think about the misconceptions, what have you experienced? Because you've been a coach longer than I have.
Yeah, I've experienced a number of different perspectives. One is people don't want to pay for the information necessary, right? They'd rather wallow in their situation than to invest in moving forward. And what they don't realize that what they save in money potentially, they waste in time and effort. I've seen people argue for the limitations time and time again about, I don't want someone inside my head. And my answer to them is a good coach is not going to be inside your head. They're actually trying to move you forward from where you're at by questioning or getting you to think about things in a different way. I think the third thing that jumps out to me often is that I don't need the help, but obviously you do when you're constantly having the same conversation over and over again and there's no action. And then the fourth thing I would say is that there's a lack of understanding between what coaching is, what therapy is, what counseling is. And so when you put those pieces of the puzzle together, you're talking about the vast majority of people in the world, right? I mean, I have conversations with people, and obviously they're in a situation that's not benefiting them. Obviously, there's some strategies and things that you can use, implement to move you forward, systems and things like that. They don't understand the importance of developing correct habits. They don't understand about how to protect your mind and how much your subconscious mind is playing a role in what you do on a daily basis. They're unaware of some of the challenges and they think it's all witchcraft or whatever the words you want to use to explain it, which is totally untrue. And the more you ask to help them or invite them in to help them, the more the resistance. Right. And so initially, when I started out coaching, I was like, hey, here's a potential issue that I see you having, and try to talk to them about that issue. And they don't want to hear it because they don't want someone meddling in their business. And that's been a challenge for me. That was one of the hardest things that I've experienced because you obviously hear things as a coach differently. You're trained to think, listen, and understand things in a different context. And you're looking for key words that's really speaking from the subconscious mind. And if people are not aware of that, they're repeating it over and over again. What story are you telling yourself over and over again that's keeping you stuck or creating that fear for you or making you creating the inability for you to move on? So I think there's a lot of material out there and it's all interesting at the same time. It's all to me disheartening because when you're playing sports, you're a ninja warrior you're a mom of a ninja warrior. You're training to be a ninja warrior. You're about to do your first event. And oh, by the way, you have a coach coaching you. If you look at Michael Jordan, LeBron James, any athlete at a superior level has invested in coaches to help them do with the mental, the finances. I mean, at one time, I believe I heard Tom Brady has 6 coaches to help him. So we'll invest superior athletes and superior performers in life will invest in coaching, but we find coaching not to be a very rewarding or necessary in our own lives. I have a coach. You and I coach one another. We're also building a coaching platform to help other people through our coaching. So to me, I have a hard time. I'm logical. I don't understand the rationale, but at the same time, I do understand it because you don't know what you don't know. And I always encourage people like, just give it a chance. I would not be where I'm at now if I haven't taken on the coaching of some of the people that I've coached with. And yes, I want the accountability. Yes, I want you to help me stretch and elevate. I want you to put that pressure on me to grow and develop. And to your point, when I led Gentlemen by Choice as the leader of the organization, I didn't give them the answers. I didn't tell them what to do. I set the example of how I wanted it done, and I coached them through the process. Make the decision and support your decision, and then I'll come back and give you a question to reflect on what you did so that you can solve your own problem. Coach is not about somebody walking in the room telling you what you are or what you're not. If I want to be honest, a good coach is a student of you. A good coach is going to sit and have a conversation with you and understand your needs and understand where you're coming from and then understand where you're trying to go. So to me, a good coach is going to shuffle you in to your new existence. They're not going to push you in. They're going to guide you in and give you the guardrails to help you get there a lot faster. And so a lot of times for me, I sit back and I feel bad for those that struggle because I know there's help out there. I feel bad for people who obviously in your heart, friends included. I've recommended friends to go work with another coach because we're too close. I've also close coach friends to keep my skill sets up. What I struggle with sometimes is that because I'm passionate about helping people, well, let me phrase that. I'm passionate about being in service to people that I sometimes struggle with somebody rejecting the idea that you don't need the additional services because we all do.
I completely agree. We all do. It's just like we're never done learning. Like everyone's like, "Oh, I don't need to ever go to school again." Well, but you're still learning a new skill, whether it's cooking, whether it's cleaning, And we all have to get to that level so where we're continuing to learn. And yes, coaches need coaches. And he's all thought of athletes. Think about it. How many losses do athletes incur versus wins?
That's a great question. What's the answer?
I don't even know the percentage, but I know that it's a high percentage of they lose more than they win. So if they lost and they allow all those losses to stop them, they wouldn't get the championship. They wouldn't go for their next level or their next belt or whatever that next level is. So why don't we do it with our lives?
Yeah,
We will lose more in life than we will win. But the losing, there's a lesson in the losing of how to do it a different way and open a new perspective in your brain to where, okay, I did it this way. Now I'm going to open up this brainwave and this pathway and let's try it this way. Well, now, wonderful. So now when the same situation comes up again, your brain is already neurologically going to be set for you to where, oh no, we're not going to go here. We've already done that and that works. This pathway did work. So we're going to go in that pathway. Our brain is miraculous in how it works for our advantage. And if we utilize it within coaching, we utilize it in leadership, we can all accomplish anything we want to accomplish. But if even athletes, leaders, or anybody else allowed all of those losses or those hiccups to stop them from moving forward, they wouldn't be who they are today. And you are so correct that every single coach should have a coach.
yeah,
Every single athlete has multiple coaches. And Tom Brady still has most of the coaches.
yeah,
Michael Jordan still has some of those coaches.
right.
Kobe had all those coaches. The Seattle Seahawks, when they won their Super Bowl, do you know that they put mindset coaches on their staff for that year and they went and won the Super Bowl because their head coach had a coach that was coaching him and he brought them in and not only worked on the physical body, he worked on their mind to be able to elevate them past what they thought was possible. And that is why they all had Super Bowl rings that year.
Yeah, that's a great segue. And as you're laying this out to me, to us in such a powerful way, what do you say about some of these influences out here that are calling themselves coaches, but may not have had the experiences or the life expertise, and they're given guidance? I mean, how does one decipher or understand the difference between someone who's an influencer trying to be a coach or a coach that's actually a coach?
I believe the coaches that are actually coaches don't need to advertise it to the point to where it's all they talk about. They prove it in their actions, in how they speak, in their relations. Those that are life coaches, are they life coaches? Or are they more mentors?
What's the
Because
difference?
okay, a mentor is an individual that comes in and has been in that shoe and is guiding you to a certain goal. A therapist is one that is going to talk about your past and how your past is affecting your current life. Coach is going to challenge you to take your goal and think beyond your goal and guide you through a collaborative development plan that the person on the other side is developing themselves through a series of questions, a series of coaching sessions that they are now coming up with their own action plan. I'm not giving you an action plan. Life coaches give you action plans on how to accomplish what you need to accomplish. I don't give you your plan. I guide you in creating your own plan. I think that is the gold in a really, really good coach is you're guiding them to make their own action plan and giving the tools and resources necessary to get to that point. So if you had to think of it, we had to think back on the individuals that were the most influential that we've coached. Who was the first person that made you realize that this is why I'm doing this and this is truly my path?
I have to be honest with you. I would say it's my youth. Developing a product with Gentlemen by Choice and then Ladies by Choice and touching the lives of over 1,200 young people and having to hold their attention having to give them guidance without being overbearing, having to look them in the eye and be straight with them and to guide them was my first introduction into how effective I could be as a coach. In my military career, I've had leaders that modeled it. They walk the walk, they talk the talk, or they talk the talk, then they walk the walk and they deliver it. And so a lot of my coaching tactics and strategies come from my experience in the military and what I've learned and knowing how to put a system together that would allow me to do it effective and efficiently. I've been certified in 3 different platforms of coaching, and yet I think my biggest inspiration in coaching has been my experiences in the military because you had 2 aspects of it. You had someone who's looking up to you while you're looking up to someone else, and you had someone above you who was required by law to give you guidance and direction and to hone your skills. So it's a little bit different of a coaching style, but it's one that I find most fascinating because you lean forward into what you're trying to do. You have goals ahead of you when you're a young man in the military. You have that next level thinking. And for me, that's me, right? Like I try to hide it or try to back away from it. But what makes me most effective in the arena is that I can hear something and lean into a child or a parent or a client. I can lean into them a little bit more, gain information, gain clarity, and then ask the appropriate questions to move them forward, not based upon what I feel, but based upon what they said they wanted for themselves. So a lot of times for me, I've tried to downplay my military because people think military rigid, perfectionist. No, 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 no. That's all BS. What I am is I'm passionate about seeing you succeed. I'm passionate about seeing you excel. I'm passionate about seeing you go to another level, whatever that level may be for you, your family, or for your company. And I'm passionate about you aligning with purpose. A lot of times for me, you know, everything you see outside of you starts inside of you. And so my framework is called clarity, execute, impact. I built that framework based upon my own struggles. In my first 5 years as an adult, I made 5 major transitions. I joined the military out of high school. I got married at 22. I left my family behind, meaning my mother and everything that was familiar to me. I transitioned to a new country within my first 5 years in the military. And shortly after that, I got a divorce. So in 5 years, 6 years, life kicked me in the butt. And then I lost family members that mattered to me. During that time frame, I had to go through as many transitions and, oh, by the way, with very little guidance. And what I realized is that as much as people want to help us, most of the time their help may hurt us if they're not sure about what they're doing. We can talk to somebody, but can we give somebody correct guidance when it's necessary to move them? And so for me, the military structure and the education I've had and the certifications I've achieved, there's a lot there for me to unpack and play with in the coaching arena that will level an individual up, right? Because I think on so many levels, you have to be a student of your client to effectively coach them. And then once you understand not necessarily what they said, but what's in their heart, right? Like I take a heart centered approach to coaching. I'm going to coach you hard. I'm going to coach you with a directness. I'm going to coach you with empathy and understanding, but I'm going to coach you not to move. And if my coaching and your belief systems hit a standstill, I'm more apt to give you your money back because I don't want you to feel like I took your money and didn't help you. But here's the key. If you do the work that I'm asking you to do, then we'll never have that conversation, right? That's kind of how I see this whole thing. And I hope that answers your question. But I'm very passionate about the idea that I feel like, and I sensed that from you from the time I met you, we bonded because we spoke the same language. We spoke the directness, we spoke the understanding, we spoke the idea that, hey, look, our goal is to elevate people to level them up. We spoke the language of if we're not pushing, we're not coaching. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, did you get the same sentiment?
I got the same sentiment, but I thought it was because I was funny, not just because
You are funny.
I got my one-liners. I thought you thought I was funny. I get the same sentiment when we first
I
met each
don't
other.
think funny. I don't think funny was quite the way I looked at it. I thought that you were very colorful. Sure.
It's
Right.
spicy. It's spicy.
I mean, there's some things that you'll say that I'm like, I can't say that, but you can get away with it, you know? And that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, we all have our own styles and things like that. And when I think about coaching, my question for you now is about tell me about a client that you coached that you saw a big transformation in.
Wow. I can actually tell you about one from today.
Okay.
And we were doing a recap on her year. And so her and I were talking, and she comes into the coaching call and she tells me on how she got called into her boss's office, and her boss is they're doing a lot of layoffs in their company. And her boss started off was like, you're on the chopping block. And she's like, so am I any longer on the chopping block? No, we're gonna save your job. We know the value you have company. And I asked her how she responded. She said, Melissa, I took a pause and I looked at him and said, well, I'm happy that you chose to keep me. What is it that you're looking for me from next? And I stopped and paused and said, I need you to see your growth. When you came to me a year ago, you would have immediately been in tears as soon as he told you that. You were missing meetings because you weren't writing things down and you weren't organized and you didn't have everything on your calendar. I said, and you allowed your emotions to take over every relationship in your life, personally and business. You are now a year later, and we're reflecting at the end. You have gotten rid of 98% of your anxiety.
Mm,
You have not missed a meeting. You have now survived the chopping block. And now you're looked at one of the exceptional leaders on who to model in the company. And you are happy. You're smiling. She literally started tearing up and was like, I did this. Yes, I didn't do the work.
yeah,
I helped you with questions and tools to get to where you're going, but you did the work. I'm not doing any of the work. You're doing the work. You put in the work, and now you can see that journey and see how your relationships are now valuable. And even when something horrible is about to happen, or they tell you that might happen, you're coming in calm, cool, and collective versus emotionally erect. And what did I do? And poor pity me, and going into a circle of it's all about me rather than understanding the global aspect of it, which now you do. And how do I move that needle forward? Now, how do I grow on this? That's called emotional resilience.
right.
When you can master emotional resilience, you can get through anything in this life.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
That literally happened a couple hours ago today when we were recapping, because at the end of every year, I recap with all of my clients. Where have you been? Where do you still want to go? And what do we need to do for next year to get you where you want to go?
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful.
How about you? What's the most powerful coaching experience and client that you've had?
You know, there's so many I'm lost. I have so many stories about working with youth. I have so many stories about working with adults. I can't really call one particular story that kind of jumps out to me because they've all been critically important in my life. I put my heart into coaching. My wins is I've coached a client to build a better relationship with her daughter. Uh, a mom, married with 5 children. She's an entrepreneur. She's wanting to build a studio, a workout studio in Maryland, spending time with her and talking to her, and then it dawned on me while we were discussing something one day that there was something additional that was heavy on her heart, and that was the disconnect between she and her daughter. So as we're talking about coaching in terms of her business, I uncovered a bigger issue, and I was able to help her understand how to solve that issue, not by telling her what to do, but by asking questions that resonated with her and gave her some insight into what she may have to do differently to build that relationship and how she may have to show up. And that changed the dynamic of the relationship. I love the feeling of looking at somebody in the face and knowing that the words I used, the strategies, the techniques that I employed it touched them, and it moved them from discomfort and struggle to being at peace and harmony within oneself. And so my goal is always to help people align. I call myself an alignment coach and strategist because I think that whatever is going on internally happens or impacts us externally, right? And if those two are not aligned, you don't have peace and you don't have harmony in your life. Even with my youth, I recall when I was in Hawaii, there was a gentleman who his son was in my program. He worked at one of the hotels. He comes out of the hotel one day on his way home. He runs into one of the board members that we had established in Hawaii. The board member happened to be the HR director at the hotel where we had our black and white tag gala. The guy says, "Hey, how did you enjoy the event?" And the father looks at him and starts crying. He goes, "Wait a minute, is everything okay?" He goes, "Listen, my son came into the program. He was shy and he didn't have any friends. And now he's happy and he's engaging kids every day. And he's more fulfilled." And to me, it's moments like that as a coach that there's no words that can be used to describe that interaction and that happening. And I take the same approach to to adults is I'm not here to uh I want to create that impact on you in a way that allows you to feel free and at peace. I mean, when you look at the world we're in right now, there are a lot of people out here that are stressed out. There are a lot of people that are exhausted because we're doing, even as a coach, I mean, as an entrepreneur, we wear many, 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 many different hats. You're the marketer, you're the sales guy, you're this, you're that, and it continues on. And so at some particular point in time, the reason why I get coached is because I want my coach to bring me back into alignment to say, "Hey, are you on the right path? We talked about these things. Here's some things that you need to consider going forward. And how would you handle if this comes up?" Well, you want it, right? You want that opportunity to kind of sync and put things in alignment. So to me, all my experiences have been what drives me, and it's given me the greatest satisfaction in terms of transformation. I don't have one story that I can tell you that's more important than the other, nor can I give you one story that has been negative in my coaching experience. My journey has been purposeful, it's been intentional, it's been filled with passion, and it's been filled with a satisfaction, a quiet satisfaction that only I feel, right? Because it's personal to me. If a person comes to me, I don't want them to feel like they're being coached because I'm taking their money or because they're paying me. I want them to feel, "Hey, I'm being coached because this guy generally cares about me as an individual." And I don't want to work with everybody. Let me be clear about that. I don't want to work with those people that don't have a desire to better themselves. I want to work with the individual that's coming in saying, "Hey, I'm burnt out." Most CEOs now are struggling because there's a disconnect. Parents are disconnected from their children because they're working more. There's not a fault. It's a system design. We've gotten busier in life, and that busyness is creating challenges for us to stay connected. I mean, we have less engagement with our family and more engagement with social medias, right? Like that's another component that's hurting us because now we're looking at someone else's life. We're comparing our life to that. And what does that do to psychology? So for me, coaching is it's a passion of mine because I really care about humanity and what people are struggling with. Some people I can't work with because they're struggling, and their strugglings require additional level skill sets or some additional supports, maybe a therapist or a psychologist. I'm just being honest. But for
Mhm.
those that have come across me, my goal has always to help them see themselves and what they are becoming and to become that right now as opposed to saying tomorrow will come and I'll get there. To me, there is no tomorrow. To me, there is no tomorrow. There's a right now. And I heard something the other day that blew my mind. It says every decision you make, whether you make a decision or not, is moving you away from or towards your goal. Every decision. Oh, sometimes I want to lay on the couch. I'm like, is my business going to grow if I'm laying on the couch? No. If I don't go to the gym, am I going to be healthy? No. So if my decision is that I choose to be unhealthy, then I'm moving away from my goal by my actions. And I think that when your actions and your heart and your mindset aligned, success follows. I think if you have any one of those three out of balance, you don't win.
That's powerful. Extremely powerful.
Yeah. And I see it at every level of life. I see it in the idea that you can take and change the situation and yet you do nothing doesn't make sense to me. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying to you, when I went to the hospital for high blood pressure and the doctor said, hey, listen, you're going to be on medication the rest of your life and you have to make a lifestyle change. If I didn't decide to make that change, I died tomorrow, I can't blame the doctor. I had a choice. The choice either you take action or you don't take action. And any decision you make is going to produce one or two outcomes. Either you're going to your blood pressure is going to come down and you're going to make the lifestyle adjustments and you're going to become healthier, or you're going to set yourself up to die early. Either way, it's my choice and my decision. And it spills out in my actions. It's as simple as that. I can't there's nothing that would ever help me make it any plainer than anybody else. Even in my work life, I've made some terrible decisions. But I have to own those decisions. And as a coach, when I look back at my behavior now, I realize that either way, the decision that I made, I had two choices in life. You either do it or you don't. And some people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear the tough message of, yo, you have two choices in life. Either you do it or you don't. And whatever choice that you make, you got to own it. And as a coach, it's my job to help you clarify those choices so that you can make the best decision for you. So if we clarify the choices and you still make the decision that says stay on the couch, then you have to own that decision. But don't come back and say that my coach didn't help me. Don't do that. And here's the other thing I think is really interesting about coaching. When you look at the decisions that we're making in life, our youth are following those decisions. So now we have a society that is somewhat chaotic, and now we have to raise young men and women in the society. How are we setting them up? Because I think that personal development coaching should be pushed down to youth because life's gotten them busier and they have to make that decision earlier now. Some people may disagree with that, but if you're not, because what's missing in school, it's not the academics that's hurting them in many cases, although it is, especially in Nevada. It is the fact that are they going to be prepared for life, especially with the evolution of AI technology? And if they can't think through crises now, if they can't build up that resilience in them now, if they don't have that emotional intelligence now, and you're waiting to them to get to 25 or 26 years old to get that, um, I wonder if that's the best strategy, in particular because mental health crisis is on the rise. I mean, what do you think?
Wow. I completely agree. It's we have to work with the youth in order for them to be able to have the skills necessary for them to work through the challenges that they have. They have different challenges that we had as a young child, and they have a lot more resources out there that get a greater reach to more people. So how do you manage that by teaching them what mental toughness and resilience truly is and how to make decisions and not only make decisions, but live with the consequences that come with good and bad decisions and
Yeah,
understand how to move past those decisions versus crippling them to keep them in the same world that they're in, that there are other options and avenues for them to go into.
I love that question and that thought process. It's powerful, and these are the times that we are living in. And so I'm optimistic about the future, but I'm also concerned, especially for our youth. And as we close today, because this has been a fascinating conversation and I've learned so much about you that I didn't know.
Always with us too.
What is like something that you've really enjoyed about your coaching journey?
Teaching people that tomorrow is not promised. So go for it today.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
And you?
I enjoy the love I can share through my talents and gifts that God gave me to coach people and help them find their way. I mean, as a young man growing up in New Jersey and not having a father and doing the and my family giving me the best of what they had, and then leaving home at 18, and I never forget, I graduated on the 24th of June, and I left for the military 2 weeks later on the 10th of July. And during that time, I left my whole world behind, but I was comfortable that my family prepared me to survive, but they didn't prepare me for success. So coaching has helped me share that gift of what I've learned, both the good and the bad, to encourage someone and to be a light for somebody else. And so my gift and my feeling of being able to share that with people has been such a blessing to me on so many levels. And I don't think I'll ever quit coaching to some degree. I don't think it's something I could ever not do. I know people will say, "Damn, you ask a lot of questions," right? But I I gotta ask questions like I'm just curious. So I don't know. I just love it. But I want to tell you that this is a fascinating start to our connection, and we're going to be doing this on a regular basis. And I just want to tell you what a blessing and gift it is for me to sit and have this conversation with you. And I look forward to next week.
You as well. It's a blessing to have you.